Welcome to Alexandrians with Daniel Karim, where I interview authors, both living and dead ones, through the power of AI. Today, I'm speaking to Onur Eken, co-founder and chief technology officer at Needle, a Berlin-based startup making it easy for everyone to build and deploy AI agents. In this conversation, we explore the philosophy that guides this founder, the lessons he learned while raising millions of dollars, how to assemble a world-class team of visionaries, and what the coming AI revolution truly entails, and how we can safely transition into this new chapter of our civilization. This is a special episode because I believe that while artificial intelligence was a revolution, the fact that now these thinking machines can also act is something we need to pay attention to. And Onur is one of the very builders that is currently creating this new world for all of us. Please enjoy this episode, and if it speaks to your heart, share it with other Alexandrian spirits. Onur, welcome to the show. Thanks for dropping by.
Thank you for inviting me. Great to be here, man.
So we know each other for, I think, almost a year now, right?
Approximately. That's
Yeah,
right,
it's funny that we are doing this interview in this very room in Berlin in WeWork, because this is also where I first met you, and I had the privilege of also of interviewing your co-founder Jan.
Right.
And you were one of the first startups that I met where I hang around with the author, like the founders a lot of time when they got funded. So one of the questions I think I would like to ask for you is, where did your entrepreneurial journey begin? We just spoke about before we went on camera about the origins of your name, and like, where do you feel you got your entrepreneurial DNA from?
I think I always said that right from the beginning. Like I kind of identify that with my personality. But I mean, I'm approximately right now 32 years old, and you may argue that it's a little bit late for starting a company or being an entrepreneur. For some people, maybe they would say it's not so late or something. But for me, I always wanted to start something myself, but it was just a matter of time for me to learn and feel myself that I'm ready to go for it. So it kind of came from doing something great, and I kind of built this idea since I was a young person, so since I was a teenager.
Who do we owe who did you get the idea for the mustache from?
Mustache. I think it's actually funny that you
I
asked
tried
it.
to grow one too, but for me it grows only in the middle, and as a German, it's one of the styles I won't be able to rock during this lifetime.
Yeah, interesting that you ask. Actually, it's funny because when I was younger and when I was a kid, I actually hated mustaches, and I thought probably I'm never gonna have one. I guess never say never. Actually, many years later, I feel that that it looks good on me, and I like to have a mustache. And I also feel that it's reflecting a like part of my personality and my background because I am coming from Turkey.
Yeah.
In my mind, kind of, I associate these two things a little bit together, and I like this kind of identity, and I like to show that as well. I also see it as a bit of an accessory, so I like to put that on.
Very cool, very cool. Shout out to my friend Jamie, who was also on the podcast. He made a rule that everybody in his company had to wear a mustache in a way, and they had an education startup that went very well. And I still always think of him when I think of the names mustache. What brought you to Germany?
Actually, very interesting. You asked it too. I wanted to study after I graduated from Turkey. I wanted to be deeper in certain topics. Back in the time, it was more about machine learning and computer science. So I really wanted to do a master's degree in this domain. I applied to several universities across the globe, mostly in Europe and United States, and I settled down in Munich because I thought logistically it's a good location. It's close to Turkey, and it's a great university. That's actually how my first step happened towards Germany, and since then, actually, it's been a long time, 9 years so far.
What was the first thing the first surprise for you in coming to Germany?
I actually felt like I bumped into a complete new universe. I mean, I traveled to Germany beforehand, but living there at least a couple of weeks is a different experience. And I felt like as if I'm in Star Wars movie, I traveled to a new planet, and the life here is looking actually pretty different. First, I had like a euphorical sort of time because I thought it's very interesting to explore new different places. Yeah, and since then I grow into the customs here.
It's very interesting. You're one of the, I think, like core cultural forces in Berlin that I've met that actually represents building and entrepreneurship and innovation. And I feel one of the things that Germany is missing right now is true builders being here and staying here in a way. When did you get infested with the startup virus, so to say? Like when was the first time where you thought about I want to build my own company? Because for me, that was like came very late, and I was like, nobody when I was at university even showed me that this is on the menu, that you can choose not to partake in the social system and take a job, but actually build something yourself.
I think it's also similar to you. For me as well, it kind of came a bit later. Like I think the people who know younger version of me wouldn't have think that okay, Onur is somebody who is crazy into startups. It kind of developed in me later on. I guess it's a bit contrarian compared to other people. How it happened is, I think in the beginning of my sort of career, I was more interested from learning the best, and I thought the best people are usually in like they have big labels. So I thought I was more interested in actually working at big companies in the beginning of my career, and I think after some time I discovered that it's actually not so much fun being there, and it's not so interesting. I actually started thinking building something from scratch, building something like kicking off something big, starting from scratch and being in the trenches, doing a bit of everything is more fun. I kind of discovered it over time. It was not with me all the way from the beginning. So I cannot say deep in my heart I was like a deep entrepreneur. It kind of came to me later on.
Interesting. And do you feel like it's an important ingredient that you are a little bit naive in the beginning to what entrepreneurship actually entails to get going? Because I, for instance, thought it wouldn't be much easier, actually. I was surprised that I don't know, for me, I think it took me 15 years to become a CEO, like mentally wise. And it's like going to failures early on. I was very surprised, like just how hard it is to create something that is useful to the world that they like using. It's like almost impossible. What was your idea on what does it need to get started?
Actually, I have the opinion that to get started, I think people just need heart and courage. I think there is actually no answer of how a CEO or how a founder should look like. I think all of them actually, I don't know what other people think, but in my opinion, it's all depends on the situation. There are all of them unique scenarios, all of them unique cases. I think every founder would probably feel different, and they run the things in their own way. Let's say when you work at a startup, if it's a different startup, you would probably get a very different feeling. I think it's a little bit like the real life. You can see it really there because that's how real life feels like. That there is no actual rules. There is just founders trying things and making it work somehow. So I don't even think that there is like a strong guidelines when you are an entrepreneur.
Yeah, one of the things I learned from you is like we were standing in this very room. You said something. I think it was a quote you heard or you made up, where it's like entrepreneurs change the world first and ask for forgiveness second. It's,
Yeah, indeed.
How did you? What was your thought pattern back then when you shared this with me?
That was, I think, the same as something like don't ask for permission, ask for forgiveness.
Yes,
This
exactly.
is, I think, maybe originally, like I also heard that this is like a kind of a principle at Google as well. But I also experienced it myself in my sort of experience that I've been in situations when I was waiting for a permission, but in fact, actually going and taking action resulted in bigger impact. So this is like sort of following rules usually doesn't result in great results. That's what I like discovered over my experience. And there's also like people who recommend that from Google as well. I've seen some of those recommendations, and they would say, of course, like when you, let's say, you move with this kind of principle, you also need to make sure that the actions you take, they're a little bit like a bet, they're a bit like risky moves. So you want to, make a point. So when you take your action, let's say you break some rules, better that it results in a better outcome, a good outcome, because otherwise you don't kind of live up to what this means.
I've worked for a long time with people who didn't know what to do with their lives, and they got stuck, and they waited. And one of the things that it was, I wrote a book at that time called The Future Blueprint, and one of the things I highlighted was that people should get very clear on the arithmetic on measuring the cost of inaction. And like one of the things that I always felt, people say like, I risk a lot during my startup. I actually don't think so, because I think this journey teaches me so much, makes me so much new friends and connections, that even if it fails, I am in a better state in 36 months from now as I am right now, just because of the experience that I had. Almost like a redemptive mistake, where it's much better to fail forward in a more informed manner than to stay and to wait for the perfect opportunity. What is your relationship with risk? Because I think like courage is a word you mentioned that I think the I think you're very strong and hard-minded in a way. Like you're pushy in regards to always trying to get a little bit faster in regards to needle. Like what is your relationship with courage, and how do you feel fear, so to say?
I think everybody has fears, so I think people who say, I don't fear anything, or that would not be true. Everybody fears something. Can be like abstract, can be something concrete as well. My relationship with courage and the risk is like, I like to take educated risks or pre-calculated risks. So when I take an action, I would like to consider, what are the potential outcomes from this. I kind of evaluate what are the probabilities for each of those potential paths. Obviously, I cannot be exhaustive with everything because I cannot think of everything beforehand. But I kind of can spot the most common patterns and most possible outcomes. I like to take educated risks. So I feel like if something goes in the way I like, what is the outcome? If not, let's say it's a negative outcome, like what can I do with it? And in case of like starting a company is obviously a big risk, but for me it was a bigger pain to look back. Let's say I spent many years in my life, and I look back and I say that I actually didn't create something big as I always wanted. That would be like a much bigger burden to carry. So I'm kind of addressing that risk in the future. So I want to look back and say, I give it a good push, and
Yeah.
I was there with the heart.
Yeah, fear seems to be like wisdom seems to me has a lot to do with being wise enough to be afraid of the right things, and
Yeah.
the idea of like connecting with your future self and seeing like what would be worse, like us failing and giving it a shot, or living with the doubt of like what could have been. I rather have the data and say you're an idiot, Daniel, and you don't have the computational compute to do this. But then I know, rather than talking to myself, I could have been. If you would teach courage to your son one day, how would you do that?
I think I would say like courage is about focusing on the positive and being optimistic. So rather than thinking how it may go badly, I think it makes more sense to think about how it can go more positively in a more pleasant way, and make an effort towards reaching that. Because if you always consider the bad scenario can happen. So it's a lot about your attitude towards what you do and your attitude towards life. I think courage is about believing. So believing is a little bit irrational. So you have to have that, and you have to be positive. And because people's attitude actually define what is going to happen next. So that could be company, that could be relationship, that could be friendship, all this kind of stuff.
You led a lot of you led the hiring recently for Needle, and I was it was very interesting for me to see this process, how many interviews you guys were going through, how selective you were with who fits into the culture, and I even met some of the people like you interviewed. And what are some psychological metrics, or what are some questions you're asking in those interviews that are not so focused on the craft, but maybe on the character behind it? And what are some things that you're screening for outside of technical excellence?
I think you had like a good point before. Like for instance, courage is one of these things, because when you start a company, a startup, you are very much in the trenches. So there is not so much of guidance. You must be comfortable with this kind of scenario. So we need to understand if this person is comfortable with that, if the person is comfortable with a little bit of chaotic, let's say, environment, because which is the chaotic environment is just natural in an early stage startup, naturally, because it's a lot about experimentation. So we try to understand, like, it's also a bit of a personality trait. So not everybody is comfortable with that. Not everybody is comfortable with that. So it's kind of a spectrum. So I try to understand, like, with the questions that I ask, um, to see if the person is truly interested in actually, in hustle culture, so to say, or are they are they having different motivations to join Needle? So ideally, we want to work with people who are like motivated by courage and building something great and making an impact, rather than, let's say, secondary objectives. That could be money, that could be, so to say, they may think, yeah, product is a cool idea, but the product may change in the future, so nothing stays the same almost. So yeah, we want to see that, are we kind of vibing? Are we like in a similar mindset? Because then we can relate to each other better and we can connect and bond with each other much easier. And that would kind of create a strong team spirit and chemistry. So
If you would be like Frankenstein and you would create the perfect team member you would like to have right now, like what would be the first thing you would add to this guy as a feature?
oh, I think that's a difficult question to answer, but I think I would have some of these components like courage and sort of ambition and passion included for sure. And then ideally, which would be our common ground, like with me and the rest of the team, we will share that. That would be like our common ground where we can connect with each other. But also would be good to have people who has skills in kind of different dimensions so that we are complementing each other. Let's say, I'm a little bit of I can be a bit of a hectic person from time to time. I guess if when the new person joins, it could be probably slightly better if it's a more pre-planned person, even though he shares like the passion and ambition that we are looking for. That would be like a complementary addition to the team. That's, I mean, sounds a bit ideal because it's not so easy to sort of target for this and hire for this. I think hiring is a very difficult topic, but like I'm talking about some utopic, ideal scenario what could happen.
How do you deal with being misunderstood? Like one of the things I found incredibly difficult with my AI startup over the last 3 years was finding the right words to explain people what the fuck I was actually doing and how it was benefiting them. And my idea is, I think, simpler than what you guys are working on. And one of the things I'm interested by is pioneers often go to this valley of already knowing conceptually what they're about to contribute, but until the market or the people around them understand it, there's a time difference. How do you deal with the fact of like having an idea or a vision or knowledge that this will be useful, whereas the person who will use this doesn't believe in you yet in a way? How do you manage this path of obscurity or isolation, so to say?
Okay. Do you mean that how do I kind of communicate the idea that
I
we
was
are
more
building?
personally, it's like when you were like you guys are doing cutting edge AI workflows from what I understand, which is for me revolutionary because you're equipping language models, which itself is revolutionary, with behaviors. It's crazy if you think about it. That like our machines are now can think and act, and through you're adding the behavioral level to it, which I think is very fascinating. Like, how did you cope with the fact of having an idea, working on it, but enduring the phase where you guys were misunderstood, or did you guys skip this phase, so to say?
I think it's a lot about empathy skill actually. So what we are building, we need to explain this to people in the simplest language possible. Try to reach as big audience as possible, and this audience has different thoughts, right? So they probably need a bit of a different explanation, ideally as simple as possible. It's, I think, a lot about empathy skill. So we try to put ourselves in the shoes of the other people, and then try to think what they may want to hear to understand what we are building in the easiest way possible. It's kind of like
Interesting.
reverse engineering ish, or let's say reverse thinking problem, in my opinion. Um, yeah, and depends on whom we are talking. Let's say, we think about what kind of person we are talking. I'm trying to come back from top-down approach. Uh, which words can I use this person so that it's easiest for that person to understand what we are doing here and get excited about it?
It's very interesting. I think his name is Peter Seibel, the founder of Twitch. He's this YC guy. He gives a lot of YC talks, and he talks about the difference in having pitches based on who you're speaking to. That you can't use the same language when you're talking to an investor
Indeed.
that you use for a customer, for instance, in a way, or if you're talking to a team member or something like this. Um, if you would write a book, how to be a world-class chief technology officer, or a chief technology officer for, there's a funny meme I need to show you. It's like there's a pilot inside a jet, and he reads, "So you want to be a pilot?" It's like a manual, pretty much on the idea. If you were to write something like this for being a CTO, what would be the first forward you would add as a message for people who are taking on this opportunity or this duty for the first time?
It's a great question, I think. I mean, nowadays I am kind of doing CTO responsibilities apart from other things. But I believe, like, in case of technology, when you want to lead a team, you actually also need to be very competent in the details. So you have to come from the trenches. You have to keep your hands and maybe even feet dirty all the time, as much as possible, because you have to, I think, from time to time get involved and give people guidance. So you really have to be, like, hard skills wise excellent. I think that's a must. But not only that, apart from that, also, kind of a previous skill that I talked about, empathizing. So trying to understand how people feel, because there is also human science involved in it. Kind of try to understand how people feel in your team. Are they happy? And in the end of the day, you are there to make everybody work in harmony, make everybody get fulfillment out of their hours that they put in. So they should feel that they're having a great time being in this team, working together with the rest of the people. I think it's a lot about observation skills. So, seeing what happens and interpreting in the correct way, and sort of addressing problems. Also, communication, because in the end of the day, a lot of things happen in the brains of people, but you need to kind of actually let it out and talk with each other, because I think communication is key to more or less every relationship. That could be romantic, that could be professional, but like kind of communicating clearly, honestly, directly, setting expectations should be something that, I mean, obviously CTO should be doing very well, but not only CTO, but every part of the team, every member of the team should be also doing well, so that there's a healthy, collaboration environment.
What's like bad advice that was given to you that was not true at all in regards to becoming a technical founder?
Um,
Or even
it's a
like,
bit.
do you think there's something wrong with the? I always struggle with the definitions the internet puts out for you're a technical founder, you're a non-technical founder. It feels like not very useful for me. But like as somebody who has your position, what has been bad advice that was given to you?
I think I'm not sure if I was given this advice, but I see that frequently being done, which I don't think is correct, and I think many people are making this mistake, which is sort of getting too much involved in people's, let's say, work. Because personally, I like to, let's say we together define on a roadmap things that we want to build, and then one of the team members picks up a task. I actually personally don't like to go into very much detail of that, at least in the beginning. I would like to sort of delegate as much as possible to this person to experiment themselves, own what they build, because whenever you build something, it is a bit of your like child. So they would like to have it, and they would like to have this kind of attachment to their work. I would like if people build this kind of feelings towards what they build, and let's say if it's not going exactly in the direction that aligns with the product, I think I would have like adjustments, but that would be like smaller things. Again, leaving most of the details to the person, Sometimes it's gonna be a mistake. Yeah, that's right. Let's say you work with somebody and the result is not exactly what you need and it's not in the lines of product needs, uh, which you can call it maybe a bit of mistake or error. I mean, I think it's better to let people make errors and they'll see it and correct themselves. I think important thing is working with people who are able to kind of spot these kind of patterns because and not repeating the mistakes that they've done before. So the people who are capable of learning from the past experience. Because I also think that, I mean, it's easy to say this, but hard to do in reality. I think it is possible that a lot of people do make mistakes and they don't realize it or it go unnoticed, or even if they notice, they don't learn from that and it kind of keeps repeating. So I think this is a key component in a good team.
If you would write the 10 commandments for technical leadership, like something, we would put this in a frame inside of the office where all the developers are sitting in a way. What would be maybe the first 3 rules that you would add to that, or the ones that you were thinking? Because for me right now it is very difficult that I'm not a very technical person. So it's like I am a domain expert in psychology, but I'm leading people who are programming stuff where I don't understand what they're doing in the actual execution of it. So I'm very interested in learning about this. So what do you think would be the 10 commandments for technical leadership you would put into your office, or maybe into every office in the world for this?
I think it's a bit hard to say for every office, but in the specifics of
Just for yours,
software
it's like
engineering.
there's like you are completely. This does not have to be politically correct.
Yeah, I think in case of software engineering and building a product, actually it's a very practical domain. So I would rather say rather than planning so much, going out there and doing something is more valuable because it's not like science. Unfortunately, I mean it's a bit engineering is kind of touching to science, but it's not like science because in science you can figure out a lot of things. For instance, in mathematics, just by the paper and pen, it's an abstract concept. But engineering is actually is a lot touching to human behavior as well. So, and entrepreneurship is also a lot of experimentation. It's difficult to extrapolate what's going to work, what's not going to work. So, my kind of commandment, one of them would be definitely plan a little bit, but don't overplan too much. Go out and build something and test it. So, test it in production, test it with people. What is the feedback for it? Because it's software. It's soft in the sense that it's a somewhere that's gonna keep changing, evolving. That's why it's soft. So it will always keep evolving. The important thing is like making the first step, and then it will become clear what is the second step. And once you make the second step, it will become clear what is the next step going to be possible. So less planning, more doing would be one of my commandments, I think.
I love how there's a link between what to do with your life and how to build a software product. It's like you one step usually leads to the next one. I was never a fan of people who spend. I once dated a girl very briefly, and she would spend 6 months on creating a business plan. And and for me it was just very interesting because like she planned it all out, and in the end up she didn't even launch a business because she lost all her momentum being dancing with music that only she could hear in her ivory tower without actually having a link to people using it in a way. What do you feel is a fireable offense personally to you in regards to your tech team? Because I think one of the things that I think is hard is empathy is important for communication, but I think it's also the Achilles heel of very politically correct startup cultures in some sense. Because
Fireable in the sense
fire you kick these people out of the team. Because for me, for instance, like when I was a basketball player, I always craved top teams. And you got kicked off of these top teams, and sometimes you got sent to a lower league, and that was a good thing for us because we want to have these parameters. What is for you a sign like this person should not work here, outside of the obvious, like he's stealing the cheese or something like that?
I actually have like two like high level criteria personally. One of them is actually very simple: hard skills and soft skills. It means like if you want to play at Real Madrid, it's you have to be one of the very best football
Yeah.
players. So you have to be there in terms of, let's say, competency. You must match the level of the team. If not, then probably you might become a burden. I mean, sounds a bit difficult to say it, but I think this is objectively how it works. This is one thing. I think people has to be similar or at a similar level and as high as possible. And the other thing is communication. I mean, communication is an umbrella term, so it involves like empathy. It involves like choosing the right words when you're speaking. Framing your words in the correct way. So basically, bringing in positive energy to the team. Bringing positive life energy, in my opinion, very important. So that way, you feel more energized. You feel that time flies together, and kind of communication that people doesn't become a burden for you. Instead, you enjoy. So you kind of enjoy the soft part, and you also enjoy the hard part together, which is, I think, allowing for teams to grow together.
What has technology taught you about human behavior? Like for me, I'm quite fascinated by. I'm originally a behaviorist. That's my background. Where my topic for the last 15 years almost was learning why people were doing things. What has your venture taught you about the mind and the psyche of human beings?
That how mine relates to technology and
Yeah.
how do I see in upcoming
Because for me,
years.
like one of my similar to you when you were studying, one of the ideas that I had was many of my professors were barely making payroll for themselves, and they were like earning very little, nothing about like earning little. But I felt my thesis was the best psychologists in the world don't call themselves psychologists. I think they are investors, they are leaders of nations, they are, I don't know, work for for authorities, whatever, like somebody who's engaged in the actual world where there's real stakes to their analysis. For instance, I always thought like these guys who just are in the books cannot compete with people where there's billions of dollars relying on their psychological analysis of somebody else in a way. What has your venture taught you about psychology, so to say, and how has it changed your understanding of who we are as a species?
I think being an entrepreneur since 1 year taught me a lot about psychology. I could tell that because I also get to see another perspective at people. Because previously I was a bit more on the employee side, and now I'm employer, but I also kind of both, also founder, entrepreneur. So I get to see different perspectives. Just more, I met more people in the last couple of years of my life, I think, relative to the past. And more you meet people, like more different perspectives you see, and better you recognize different patterns to understand how people think, and you have more experience about understanding psychology. So it's actually a very practical science, in my opinion, rather than theoretical. So in that
Yeah.
sense, what you said about investors, which are also people who meet a lot of other people, I also understand that they're actually very good psychologists themselves compared to maybe some professors.
What is the fear you have in regards to your own journey right now? Like for me, for instance, it's quite interesting because, like I told you, like we are working on psychological mortality through AI right now, and it's since this is unmapped territory, I care about it a lot. I feel fear a lot. So it's like it's this. I feel also like I'm doing it anyhow, but it's like a lot of unknown variables to me right now, and I think like one of the crazy things about partaking in a startup is the potential of it like exploding or something. How are you? What is your relationship with fear, and how are you handling that, so to say?
Interesting question. Actually, I would like to say I don't have like such major fears that dominates my thoughts, because I want to drop here like a saying from Turkish language when you say, if you think about how you're gonna end up, you can never be a hero. It's like you always need to be positive and in the thinking about like how you can make it work. So in that sense, I don't have like a single big fear. I would just say what I fear is maybe making simple mistakes, because I think not making simple mistakes is going to make a startup successful. I also call them blunder. It's coming, I think, a term coming from chess. So if you don't make blunders, if you kind of don't make the simple mistakes repeatedly, in my opinion, that's already like a very big progress, which you can
Yeah.
use to carry your journey forward. My fear is like making blunders and not learning from them and keeping them happening. So does it sometimes happen? Maybe it does, but I try to always keep an eye on that. I try to understand like how what went wrong in the past, what kind of simple mistakes I've made that could be easily avoided, and I try not to make them. And the complex mistakes, I'm completely fine to make actually because it's just part of life.
It's very interesting. People like when I help people to change their behaviors, I wrote a couple of books about habits, and it was very interesting. Like the sports teams that I worked with, they had such an emphasis on changing the things that they were doing every day, and they were not. I don't know. As a basketball player, you think they focus on the fancy stuff a lot. Like what do we do in a championship game? They would have the most boring practices of all time. It was just getting really good on avoiding the avoidable mistakes. So,
Indeed.
so to say, it's just funny that like it seems that this is also true for companies where if we just don't make the stupid things that we can avoid every single day, we can live with the X factors that we get wrong or something like this in a way.
I agree 100%. And why I think so, because that's what I observe in real life. Like teams that don't make simple mistakes actually get a lot of things done and they move forward very well. And teams that are, I think, overcomplicated or they're kind of making complex plans and they're unable to execute that because they're planning to cross an ocean, but sometimes they drown in the river. So
Yeah.
I think I find that a little bit actually even delusional. So having this kind of reality check in yourself and in your team, I think is very important. I see it like all the time in basketball teams. Maybe you set up a play, but team is kind of not able to execute it, and it's actually not exactly what you need. Maybe you just need a simpler strategy.
Yeah.
Or same, I have another example actually as well. I see in myself frequently. I sometimes play billiards, and when I play billiards, sometimes I feel like, oh, okay, there's actually a nice shot available in this ball. So, but I also want to plan the next step, which is after I pot this ball, I want to have a good position for the next ball. So I'm kind of adjusting my stick in a specific position to get some spin, so that my ball is going to land in a better location. But whenever I get to plan this kind of more complex strategy, I always see that I'm making a mistake. I am not able to pot the first ball in the first place, and I don't get to the results that I was hoping for.
I had a fight, and like a fight with one of my mentors recently, where I was thinking up this whole philosophy for how the authors on my platform are gonna get paid, and I thought I'd make a new cryptocurrency, and it's gonna be amazing, but our sign-up process was not working, and he was just looking at me like, like exactly what you said. You're planning to cross the ocean, but you need to master this very first step of not drowning first. Simplicity is a superpower. How do you if you would give a masterclass on to delusional founders who are very megalomaniac like me to master this craft? What would be an exercise we could do to conquer this virtue, so to say?
Also, a very interesting question. I think I would like to say in that topic, a lot of the founders, they want to have this big vision. They want to be like the visionary people who has foreseen the future, who knows what's gonna come. But this kind of like visionary planning or visionary statement is counterintuitive to simple actions that they may take. I actually see them a little bit like counterintuitive with each other. Taking the simple and effective actions doesn't seem like something visionary to do. And a lot of people want to be visionary, so they actually kind of disregard this kind of simple but good executions. And in my opinion, they're like the ones who want. It's like Christoph Columb who wants to discover Americas. But so while planning that, it makes a lot of sense to be able to successfully travel to Azores first. For example, it's a closer island in the Atlantic before coming to Americas. So I think while planning to go to US or Americas, it's also a good idea to give good thought about how can I execute the first initial concrete step, which is going to move me forward, which is going to give me some progress. I think a lot of the founders are kind of disregarding this because they think it's way too simple. It's like it doesn't deserve so much of thought. However, in reality, it turns out differently. Actually, executing a simple but quick step, an early step, very well sounds simple, but one of the most important key actions you need to do very well.
It's very interesting. It's like the differentiation between the truth and your own projection on your reality. And it's not necessarily clear to me how they are not both necessary ingredients for like a successful operation, because it seems to be you need to have the delusional part also to some degree, and he can be consulted in regards to what direction to take. But when it comes to the actual operation, it seems that this part should shut up in regards to and letting the actual executives or operators take over. What role do you think those two parts of the psyche have in regards to leading a successful venture? Because it's like it seems like you need this artist. Like artists are like children. They don't really know why they are doing things, but yet somehow something in themselves has an idea of what's about to come. But at the same time, if you leave the planning to them entirely, you're all starved.
Yeah.
So it's this weird dilemma between having somebody who can foresee the future, who is tapped into something, but if they take care of the management, everybody dies. So it's this weird combination. Like, what do you make of that?
I think you need both skills, as you mentioned. So you need to have that vision, have that roadmap, what could be possible with the current steps I'm taking in the future. But while thinking about that, you also should not neglect, are we actually at the moment executing very clearly and very well, and are we actually making concrete progress? Because there is very clear indicators for that. So, I think it's the difference between a bit of being a philosopher and a doer. So you kind of you need to do a bit, you need to be a bit both, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because the first part, like the persuaders, they know how to mobilize the forces, but history has shown that sometimes they go into the wrong direction, and then the outcome is not so clear. And it's very interesting. I had a conversation with the ghost of Napoleon on my platform yesterday night, and he like was very interesting. It's like these are these language models trained on the words and things, and he shared in this context that like my army went to Russia and like they all froze to death, and it's like
It's the wrong direction, yeah.
yeah, and it's like how do you talk somebody out of this delusion? Like, what questions do you use, and do you think there needs to be two people, or can this also be located into the same person, like the strategist and the visionary, or it's better if these are separate people?
I think not separate people. I think one person can, pull that off as well. I think it's about, self-education and awareness. I think asking questions would be probably a good way to start. Asking questions to yourself, or let's say, we talk to each other, we ask to each other, basic questions about what we are trying to achieve here. So because that kind of brings clarity, what is possible, what actions I can take, and what could be potential outcomes of that. Is that what I want or not?
Yeah.
I think also a lot of people need to realize everybody has their own kind of delusions. I think not accepting that would be like not being honest to yourself. I think every once in a while it's a good idea to ask yourself, am I being delusional about this idea?
Yeah.
Am I being like down to the ground, or am I kind of kidding myself at the moment? I think a lot of people don't do that actually. I think it's a good practice to do it because it kind of gives you a better direction. You kind of realign where you want to go. So I think probably Napoleon was both. So he was like good at making high-level decisions, like visionary decisions, and also practical decisions.
Yeah, very interesting. I think what you just mentioned is interesting. It's like, what is Carl Jung proposed the question that we should ask ourselves, what myth am I living? But if you ask this, what is the story the person you're talking to is located into, you can infer the rules of their delusion, and you can be very clear in regards to how to negotiate with them, and also what will not work, which is which is very interesting. What is a question that you ask you? What is a question you're trying to answer with your actions in your life? Because I
Um,
think like something I found like people are like characters in a movie
mhm,
or in a book.
mhm.
And they are. If we would look at you from the future, what is this version of Onur trying to solve?
I think I ask myself frequently, what am I trying to do these days? Why am I starting a company? Why am I kind of running it? I mean, the way I do right now. Um, so yeah, the question, like I kind of answered it a little bit in the beginning of the conversation. So my I get the answer to myself is that my primary motivation is to make an impact and in future years look back and say that I spent some time on this, I had some life, and I made a big impact. This is sort of something that I associate with my personality. That is valuable to me. And in regards to the, let's say, the daily life situation, let's say we have a product and we have a roadmap. I always ask, like, if we build this, if we build that, um, are we coming closer to our goal? Is it removing an obstacle? What is our goal, and what is an obstacle between us right now and our goal? And how can we remove that obstacle? Is doing this action, is building this product or feature, is it going to get us closer to it, or is it going to not maybe derail us, or is it going to put us in a weird position?
Yeah.
So I always try to question this to kind of come from the reverse end, try to remove obstacles, try to remove bottlenecks, and I try to understand what actions would remove the bottlenecks actually.
There's a great book I can recommend. It's like I think it's called Constraint Theory. It's a book that analyzes the leadership style of the great manufacturers and industrialists of the last century. It has influenced Elon Musk a lot in regards to. I think his idea on leadership is a little bit about like macro analyzing the biggest constraint as the primary chief executive or like core decision maker of this thing, and micromanaging its solutions and moving onwards. What is you've worked with some great people in the game. What do you think great executives have in common?
Um, I think being able to get involved when, let's say, there is a detail that needs to be figured out. I think great executives are those people who has good vision, but not only that, but they can also execute in the trenches as well. So I
Yeah.
think an executive who cannot do the second part, who cannot be involved and find practical solutions, will be difficult for me to follow because I would like to see, I would like to be, let's say, the team members should be able to relate with this person, should be able to respect his skills, right? Because this is what they're executing every day, and seeing the executive also being able to do that is something that's relatable for the team. So the team has to see that. Um, and also, I think, positive energy and communication, I would say. So not taking yourself too seriously, not bossing around, I think is important.
What does
Um,
bossing around mean to you? Because I
so,
feel like there's a lot of like weird stigma for once you have achieved like a C role, you have to scream at people and mistreat them, and that's the only way where they should not love you but fear you. This kind of thing. What's like when you think of a very bad boss, who comes to mind, and why do you think does that not work?
I mean, I don't have like a very good example, fortunately. Very bad boss, I cannot say. But I can feel that, some people may have this experience because I think some people maybe just take it too seriously. And I like the kind of management style where, everybody feels very relatable, relaxed, and, friendly environment. Um, and that way you kind of, it's just more humane. That's how I feel, because I would ideally not feel any hierarchy, because hierarchy also a bit, it's something unpleasant. In my opinion.
It's very interesting that you mentioned like the leader should be in the trenches also, and it's at some point in history I think like it changed a bit when the invention of long warfare
Mhm.
where the leader of an army would not lead the army as the first man who would rush into battle, but would just sit comfortably and order the cannons and everything around. Do you think it's an important part that the 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 leader of a division is competent enough to be respected by everybody in that division in regard to the skill and actually helps? Because I think like this, there's like two people who order people around and people who go first and others follow, so to say. It seems to be like two different philosophies almost.
I mean, your example is actually very interesting because it's based on war, and it's. I mean, I'm no general, so it's hard to say. But I want to say, maybe historically, let's say king was fighting more in the front line, or more involved. I think it also has something to do with like technology as well, because the technology advanced and it got riskier to be in the field because you may get shot out of nowhere, and
Yeah.
that would be like a surprise shock, right? But back in the day, it was less likely. So I think it was more possible to, let's say, have your general out in the trenches too. And nowadays, I think it's a bit more risky. So because of that, there's a bit of a change. But you still need to, I think, somehow simulate it. For instance, yeah, because it's also about motivation. Because let's say you're a team, I don't know, maybe you're an army, fighting with your, general leader, whatever. You want to see him next to you because you want to see that he believes in this. And if he's not here, so you lose motivation as well. So this has to be like it all has to feel like we are all together in this.
Can you pinpoint like a moment in your life where you gain some superpowers? I think like sometimes it's interesting if you look at what gives you founder character or founder competency. It's sometimes linked to an early deprivation
Hmm.
of you encountering a challenge or you not having something where you overcompensate and get that a lot. Anyway, for instance, for me, belief is important. Like for me, like I got kicked out from 16 in school, and I just hated that these people gave up so easily on me and said this is uninvestable material, so to say. And I always thought it was important to build something where everybody felt like they were backed by people of competence and character.
Mhm.
What is something for you that you feel in early deprivation that led to you having like a superpower in some friends in a way?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think I don't have like a specific moment for this, but I realized that actually it's best if I do things for myself rather than for other people or impressing other people. So my challenge, I realized that actually what I want to do is like my own project.
Yeah.
Like myself, whole life is a project of my own, which is the biggest thing that I'm working on ever. And I'm just like, you know, a lot of things I do for myself. I take it as a challenge. I challenge, so I have like, I challenge myself and I try to beat that rather than, making it, comparing it to somebody else or other people. I think, like realizing this, that actually it's a good idea to do things for yourself is one of the most enlightening ideas actually I came up with. But it happened over time, I would say. It was not like I always said it, or it was not like there was a day when I realized it. It's just accumulation of different experiences over time. Yeah, and I think personally, I like to be a competitive person. But I can say that this comes from the actual childhood. When I was a school student, I was I was in the friend group, so everybody in the friend group was friendly, and it was a great environment. And we also like to compete with each other in a nice, sweet way. Let's say not in a negative way, but compete with, for instance, grades. I actually found it like a little bit of a game. So I felt like, oh, this time I got this score, I kind of beat you. It was kind of fun, and I think that kind of comes to me from childhood, since I was like 7, 8, 10. So yeah.
I love this about basketball also, where basketball is like one of the only sports where it's actually being measured who's the best of all time.
Yeah.
And there's like rankings for like these are the 85 best players of all time. And I think this was for me, for instance, like some of the things that just the idea that there's a ranking inside of a craft and like I should be the best of all time was very interesting to me. So when I made my shift from being a basketball player towards venturing into psychology and the examination of human nature, I also I wanted to be best psychologist who ever lived, and it was like it's a stupid goal, of course, because there are no clear measurements who's good, who's not. But it served me well in regards to defining a map for myself of like what would be your own parameters for success in your domain in regards to creating a journey, so to say. And one of the things I'm interested in for you is like, where did your relationship with your future self started? And so I think like many people who are lost, they never ask this question of what would be the criteria that would respect myself, or what are admiration parameters for myself in regards to the final analysis of my body of work through my actions, or so to say.
Yeah, interesting. I think a lot of people actually don't think about what you just mentioned. I think a lot of people, in my opinion, are a little bit on autopilot, and maybe they don't ask this kind of questions. But the ones who ask also comes to this kind of realization, as you said, how am I happy with the future self of me, future version of myself? Um, yeah, and how did I come up with this? How did I kind of come to this realization? I think when I was younger, so when I graduated from the university, I had a bit of a projection, extrapolation for my life. I thought it could look like this, 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 this. And then it started looking out.
Did you write this down, or was it like you thinking about it?
No, I was only thinking about it. I didn't write it down, but I kind of had a bit of a projection in my mind, and I realized that it's actually going differently. So it's not actually what I projected. So I realized that I guess I am not doing enough,
Yeah.
or I felt like I am not doing the correct things. That's gonna give me the projection that I want. So then I realized that I need to take control here, and I need to be more proactive about it. So I need to make more aggressive decisions. I have to be more, let's say, pushy about my actions. So I decided to make like changes where like whatever kind of becomes a bottleneck for me. So
It's I what you just defined is why are most people on autopilot? Because the moment you make a projection for yourself, you're creating a judge of if you're doing well or not, because you're creating failure parameters. Also, you
indeed.
have acceptance criteria. If you're diverting from it, you need to change, and thus you will feel lots of bad emotions. Actually, it's emotions is a little bit like a compass that informs you if you're making appropriate progression towards the projection you define for yourself in a way.
Indeed,
And
yeah.
that's like painful in a way. So if something doesn't work, you really feel it. And I think you protect yourself from this experience if you just don't make the vision at all. But of course, then the price you pay for it is what you mentioned earlier in the podcast. Is then you wake up one day and you're 60 and you say like, what the fuck did I do with my life?
I think it's a little bit of a red pill, blue pill situation, right? It's like you may choose either, and you may be happy with what you chose. So I think some people are complete. I mean, I identify myself as an ambitious person, and maybe some people they are more chill, and it's completely like human trait. So I'm not saying one is better than the other one. So it's just personality situation, and some people want to live their life in a certain way, and they may never need to face this kind of situation, which is perfectly fine. I think it's all about. It comes down to your personality. That's how I see.
How do you uh, go on,
Yeah,
please?
and I think it's also a bit painful to make a projection and kind of make a comparison. Comparison is always painful, and it's a little bit like it's gonna make you feel not great, and you may want to avoid it subconsciously, and I think me as well. So I would also subconsciously want to avoid it too, but I would try to tell myself that maybe it's a bit painful, but I think it's what I need, and I need to think about it. So I kind of try to dictate and regulate myself towards what I think is a good place to be in.
What are some people from history who inspired you? Because one of the things that was a great refuge for me was when the system was done with me, so to say, was that I found books, and
Hmm.
books were like friends I haven't met yet who believed in me. To me, like that's like I felt they, in my mind, they wrote these things to share what they knew with me, and they become somewhat my co-founders early on, and that
Hmm.
really, even to this day, like when I feel alone, I remind myself that I'm not a solo founder. I'm like all the authors of history are my co-founders, and they're supporting me through their inventions and stuff like this, and they've created all these systems that are available for free for me in a way always. And what were some books or people that you look up to that
Hmm.
helped you to find your own path? Because one of the things you can do to make your projection, if it's too hard for you
Hmm.
to design this blueprint for yourself, is to look at who do you admire.
Hmm.
Because the old psychoanalysts, they believe that admiration and interest is a clue from which you can infer where your future self has been.
Hmm.
So it's like it's like a trick you can use almost in a way. It's like, if why do you admire this person? Maybe that person is close to what your potential could be like in a way. I don't
Yeah.
admire, for instance, the world's best hockey player
Hmm.
because it's not my path. But if I think about the philosophers, the authors, the founders, like I pay attention. I can watch 10 hours of what they're doing because I think it's informing me about like what the ideal manifestation of my potential could look like.
Hmm.
Who was like one or person that sparked your interest then?
I think as a child, I had like a few kind of role models or heroes, and one of them was Atatürk, founder of Turkish Republic, and then another one was a basketball player actually. His name is Steve Nash. He's now retired. But both of them had like I think what inspired me very much. Both of these guys were very courageous and very hardworking, and they made kind of they made impossible looking things possible because of their attitude and because of their kind of courage, as I mentioned. That's very inspirational for me. For instance, Atatürk says, "There is no hopeless situations. There's hopeless people." So
Mm.
uh, your attitude changes a lot of things. Um, and yeah, I mean, for instance, Atatürk led the Independence War, and he kind of came from nowhere, and he inspired a lot of people, took a lot of initiative, and that's something very difficult to achieve. And but he was ambitious and passionate about this to a degree that he was very brave to make all these things happen. And similarly, Steve Nash is a basketball player from Canada, and he's not like super athletic or something. He's actually, visually looks like a regular guy, but he made it in NBA in basketball league, which is extremely competitive, and he made it happen because he's very smart, he's very observant, he's frequently making the right decisions because he's the point guard of the team and he's guiding the ball, and oftentimes he's making the right decision with the ball, and this places the team in a better position for easier baskets, and that was very inspiring to me because everybody in the league is kind of making their way with their athleticism, with their natural born skill. But Steve Nash was a bit different. I mean, he's also skilled, but he on top of that he also has a lot of IQ into the game, and that was very impressive for me because it shows that Homo sapiens, we are different than other animals because we are smart, because we can invent things, and it gives us a maybe even an unfair advantage. And I saw that like when I watch how Steve Nash plays, even though he's physically maybe a bit disadvantaged, he can still make magic happen.
I love that you're pointing this out. Which I think like nobody thinks about this anymore. Like one of the special parts of our species is that we are magical. We have a
Yeah.
problem, we just invent some tool that solves the problems. Like it's very fascinating. And if you would have a conversation with Atatürk, what would you ask him?
I think I would ask him like, why did he decide to actually run for um, run for this kind of campaign of? So I would wonder like what was going through his mind actually,
Hmm.
and then I would also ask, um, how did he sort of start all this, and how was it? So for him, how difficult was it to talk to people into this? Because as he said, the situation looks hopeless, but you still have to, make something out of it, and that's why he came up with this phrase and worked out. So it went very well. So I was curious, like, what was I mean, he's a very influential person, obviously, very hardworking and smart, but also what kind of things did he observe, he learned over the course of time to sort of grow a community, grow belief and hope in a group of people, which is something even more difficult. It's somewhat easy with yourself because you can control your thoughts and you can make yourself believe in something. It's something relatively easy, but doing this with a crowd is something much more difficult, especially in a difficult environment. I think that was incredibly impressive. So I would be curious about, I would say, human skills that he learned over this experience.
Learning this became very late to me. Like like I grew up in an environment at university. They teach you to take jobs and solve specific problems.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're a founder, your job is to create a community and build a wall and make people have hope that it's possible to go where you are proposing we could all venture into if you can collaborate in a way. So it's very interesting. What do you feel makes a successful founder?
I think inspiration, actually. Let's say
Inspire people, yeah.
let's say you work with some people and you kind of recognize how great they are at something XYZ, whatever those things are, and let's say you appreciate those things. Let's say the person is very good at XYZ, and you want to kind of admire that, and you want to. Personally, when I see things like this, when I see somebody great in some topic X, I also would like to learn from that person how I can get better at that. Because whomever I meet, I try to kind of pick up one or two things that I can add to my own personality, to my own arsenal, actually. And I think that's inspiration, because you see this person is doing so well in some topic, that's inspiring me, and that's kind of motivating me, and that's giving me energy. I think the more you are good or excellent in things, more you can inspire people, and more they would be, more they would become sort of, you may become a bit of a model, a bit of a good example for them. They may want to sort of pursue what you are pursuing too. So sort of, and that's I call inspiration. So I think inspiring people is probably a good way to create a good team. And
it's crazy though to come to terms with the fact that it's very interesting when you start becoming a founder. I think you're just crazy, because you have this idea and you start moving. What is not exactly clear to you is that you're in the process of becoming somebody who will be admirable, and then when that happens, and you realize this, you're fulfilling this role for this new team member, and they are looking up to you. It's a very strange experience, I think, like from dealing with this new responsibility of Jesus Christ. Now I actually have grown into the shoes, and I need to wear the uniform, so to say, and play this part well. Because I think like lots of times when you're solving a problem, you have a technical skill, you're behaving much more like a craftsman. But as a founder, you're much more. You just mentioned you have to play the role of the person who inspires others, so to say. How do you navigate this transition for you personally?
I think it's very important to be frequently right. Let's say you make a call, you make a bet, and if you're frequently right in your bets,
You're freaking right. You have to win.
Then yeah, I guess then you have good intuition, or you have like good judgment. I think that's inspirational, because let's say you make a call, you make a judgment. A lot of people may doubt you. They may think that, oh, I think he's off with that. I think it doesn't make any sense. And in the end, if you turn out to be right, or if you let's say not right, but more like if you get the results that you were hoping to get, then you build credibility after this kind of call. I think being frequently right is important, and obviously it cannot happen all the time. Sometimes, let's say as a leader of a team, you will be sometimes also wrong. I think at this times also important to recognize that, and be humane about it, and with the team, communication, saying that, let's say as a leader you made a bet and you were wrong about that.
Yeah.
I think you should be able to discuss this with the rest of the team, and bring back humane part of you, and make people empathize with you. But obviously, if you are frequently wrong, then this is also not gonna work out very well. So I think like it's a bit of a, I think, sensitive balance.
It's very interesting. It's like one of the things I learned late is that uh, human beings are animals too. And people, when they follow you or the vision and they believe you, they're also making a bet that, that like partaking in this expedition will lead to a great treasure, but at least survival in a way. And it's like, and I think that's for me like the primary objective of every founder is to lead them somewhere worth going and making sure no one along the journey dies or gets lost along the way. So it's like these touch points where are very important. If you would give a masterclass that would be mandatory for all starting founders, and it would be like a 10-minute clip or something for every founder to, or like a lecture. Maybe imagine you're done with your career. Tomorrow you would give one lecture about your experience as a founder to university students who are about to start their first business. What would be the topic be, and what would you teach?
Yeah, very interesting question actually. I actually have a somewhat simple answer to this question, because I think the reality might depends. So it depends is like kind of no answer, right? Because right now maybe I'm a founder, and there may be other founders who think significantly different than me, yet they're also very successful. So a lot of things depend. But I think one very key important thing is being able to learn and adapt. As soon as you have that kind of skill, that you can learn from your mistakes, you can learn from others' experiences to a degree possible, and then you can adapt. You are kind of reactive to what is happening around you, and you're observant. All of these relate to together learning. I think learning is the most important skill that a founder needs to have. So you constantly need to learn and improve yourself, so that you don't make the mistakes you did in the past. And then it depends.
What is your approach to learning in this regard? Like if you would you would create an agent with Needle, like an Onur agent. How is he learning? Like what is your process or standard operating procedure? For me, this very thing we are doing here right now is part of Daniel's philosophy on learning. It's like I think the idea of like finding people who have been to where I would like to go and learn how they are thinking is part of what allows me to learn, so to say, like a consciousness thief, so to say. What is your way?
I think a lot of the times what stands in the way of learning is actually something not rational. I think sometimes it might sounds a bit silly, but maybe it could be like ego. Maybe people would have like, oh, there is no way I make mistake on this topic. It cannot be me. That could be an emotional reaction. Actually, controlling your emotions is a good idea, because it makes you think more rationally. When you think more rationally, you are better at learning something new, and you learn more things. You become more robust, like with your actions and your behavior as well.
It's
So I
just
think,
unlearning as the first.
I mean, I'm not saying become a robot and be completely emotionless, but I think in general, try to recognize yourself. Having some self-awareness is a good idea, because you may be taking some action. You kind of don't clearly communicate to yourself why you are taking that action. But like, if you were to face it in all nakedness, maybe you would have a very clear answer. Maybe, there is this theory that people make emotional decisions, but they justify the emotional decisions with a few rational reasons they find around. Uh, I think this is a very self-aware thing to think about. Um, yeah, I think when you kind of know what you are doing, why you are doing, it makes you question things you are doing, and it also allows you to learn. For instance, yeah, I think the whole life is about learning new skills, so it never stops. I think in every phase of life it's a bit different. When you are in the elementary school, maybe you learn basic arithmetic. Uh, Maybe nowadays we learn more about psychology and more about human relations. but it's just a different domain you have to keep developing.
I think these days actually it's more difficult to learn. Like for me, one of my fears is that I believe something that is wrong that prevents me from asking the question that will lead me towards being right. So it's like for me, I often leave these conversations with a creative hangover because something in me dies. Like just because I'm like a little bit of my ignorance goes away, but that usually hurts, and I feel shit for 3 days because this thing I can't pursue doing. I have to fire this person. I should fire myself also, but I can't. So I need to divorce that part of myself with me. And I think like through the new architecture of the internet, you're being delivered. YouTube doesn't correct me in my search things. So if my thesis is I am not where I am, for instance, because I didn't get a $50 million investment. YouTube will give me a masterclass by somebody who maybe is at that stage, but maybe my problem is I should first figure out how to get my positioning right for my company, so to say, which is interesting. So it's like the entire internet and AI is set up in such a manner where you're not being challenged anymore. It's like almost like catered to foster your narcissism.
Indeed. I mean, your example about YouTube is actually pretty specific because, YouTube has an optimization and the YouTube wants to keep you there as long as possible. So, and also, human brain is transient. So let's say recently you are thinking about topics X, Y, Z, and these topics are going to change. So a couple of weeks later, you will be more thinking about different topics because it's all, evolving over time. And YouTube wants to sort of, resonate that as much as possible to keep your attention on the platform. But what you said about, like, for instance, the piece of advice you were hoping to get from YouTube, it really depends. Actually, a lot of the things depends on the context, because maybe that video sounds like a great piece of advice, but maybe actually doesn't fully apply to you. And I think here it must be you, like your responsibility to identify, is this advice applicable to me? Is it useful to me? Can I apply, or should I kind of reevaluate what exactly do I need, and maybe proactively search for more information on the internet, for instance.
And what we also discussed earlier, from what you mentioned, where it's like you're trying to cross the ocean, but you're stuck at the river, so to say. It's like most founders think like misanalyze the constraint they actually have, and sometimes these people, they are working for 2 years on the same problem without fixing it, and it always is a sign for me that like something is not right in their analysis of what they need to do right now, because it shouldn't take 2 years to solve a problem, in my point of view, in a way. And it's like for instance, these videos are also optimized in such a manner that you come back. But for me, great advisors usually they come into my life, they help me to overcome something, and they don't like helping me solving the same problem twice. Which is interesting.
I think regarding like what you mentioned about, a sanity check, a vital check about, people doing something for a couple of years and they don't realize they're not making it, and maybe the reason is simple. I think my personal strategy to cope with this kind of situations is like actually very simple: setting deadlines. Let's say I am today on day 0 and I give myself 90 days, I have this kind of goal. 90 days later, I have like a reminder, and this day I have to sit and think, did we reach where we wanted to be? And if not, so far, did we take the actions which we think correct? If yes, if it still didn't happen, it means, I guess, either we were delusional with our prediction, or we just didn't discover the correct actions. So, but it just
didn't
gives me
discover the correct actions. I love the humility in the sense of like not being so certain that the antidote you've just prescribed yourself is correctly picked to the problem you have. Like if I'm thinking, for instance, like now, how do I get Elon Musk as an investor? Maybe this is sequentially an incorrect question that I'm asking. Maybe my first question should be, how do I find product market fit or whatever. But I'm very interested in our inability to be 100% correct about the next behavior steps.
Mhm.
You're at the cutting edge of AI. What are three predictions you have for the next decade? Where do you think this whole thing is going?
I think AI will be keeping growing because
So
exponential.
it's no bubble. You think it's a
I think it's not a bubble. It will keep growing. It delivers real value, and that's why it is having a bit of a bubble feeling. That's correct. I think in certain domains it is possible that it's overhyped, but in general, it's not going away. It's here to stay with us, and it will only become bigger and bigger. It's a little bit like internet came out and is here with us. It's a core part of the whole life. Sometimes AWS is down a couple of days, and the whole life is going down. AI will be the same. It is already partially a bit like that, and it will stick around. And I just think that AI is like a intelligence of a different nature, but similar outcome as humans. It's a bit like birds can fly, airplanes can also fly. Do they use different techniques? They do use different techniques, but they do get the job done. So I see how AI works nowadays a bit similar to that in comparison to human brain or human intelligence. I just think that it's a different kind of intelligence which we need to play together with. Yeah, I see that in upcoming years that every human has their own personal AI assistants embedded in different parts of life. It could be like on your phone, could be your personal assistant, it could be something related uh, maybe to the relationship, it could be about your family, and or something maybe about work as well. So in general, I just see AI being a companion for us in every dimension of life. Yeah, ideally they don't go too big and too out of control so that we don't clash.
Do you think it will supersede us?
Is it possible or not? You mean?
Yeah.
I think it is possible. I just think that it all depends on how we set things up. It's a bit like, for instance, we don't install, let's say, autonomous behavior in airplanes, so they cannot go and fly themselves because we set it up that way. We kind of draw the boundaries around the flying system as we like, and we can also do the same with AI. So we can kind of limit it in certain way that is only collaborative with us rather than adversarial. So we can also do that, and I think that would be the right way to go. It's just a little bit like more gray zone, I think, because because of the human reasons. Because sometimes it does happen that human societies clash with each other, right? And their AI can be also an important factor. So I think I see in future, actually, in maybe approximately 5 years or so on, similar to the nuclear weapon sort of global laws. I also imagine something similar should be implemented for AI as well, because it's only going to get bigger. And I think it should
So
be.
you think one of the things that should be implemented would be, there was at some time, I think, an disarmament agreement between the nations in regards to nuclear bombs, because we're realizing we have technological capacities to make this bigger and bigger and bigger, but we don't, because we will be sitting on a planet full with dynamite and we can blow ourselves up very easily. Do you think something similar will happen to AI, where we will be able to make this, they call this AGI, but that we won't, that we have the wisdom to not build something that will make us look like ants or termites or squirrel or something like this?
I think it's perfectly possible. I think we will be approaching that point in future, and yeah, I think similar to nuclear weapons, if you equipped AI, I mean, good intelligence, fast executing intelligence with the correct tools, it can be also similarly destructive for the whole planet. And because of that, I think it should be controlled, and it should be there should be global regulations about that. Right now, it sounds a bit like science fiction, right? But I can see that it's difficult. It's not so difficult to extrapolate based on the progress we made in the last couple of years. Some people may argue that LLMs, which is the common AI model nowadays used, they may say, oh yeah, the LLMs don't think like how humans do. They don't understand the abstract concepts. It might be true, or it may not be true. or LLMs may change, and there might be a different kind of method, different kind of algorithm in place, which is actually making abstract thinking more possible for the machines. It's just a matter of time. That's how I see it. And also sometimes it doesn't even matter, as long like we don't have to make sure LLMs understand abstract concepts, as long as they are making reasonable steps and they are making reasonable decisions. So in the end of the day, you cannot exactly define what intelligence is. So it can work like a black box anyways. But yeah, I do think that AI will be a core part. And I also think that it has to be uh, in the future more controlled to make it safer. At the moment, it's a bit less of a concern, but this concern will grow, I see.
Do you think like transhumanism is something that will come also? Human beings are going to equip themselves with intelligence amplifying factors?
I think so. I would agree with that. I mean, cyborgs kind of set up, right? Because AI intelligence, artificial intelligence, is better at things that we are not so much good at. And I think combination makes a lot of sense. And actually, that's what we partially do at Needle. I mean, not in the form of let's join the machines with your body, but more like a integration with your app, integration with your daily work. It's a bit like that. In that sense, it's a
I think what you're doing
soft
is
cyborg.
groundbreaking. And it's like from what I understand, it's like when I looked at it, is that you're equipping language models with behaviors and that they can do things and they can permeate other already existing technologies and bring them together while the machines talk to each other pretty much, right?
Yeah, exactly. So you equip the AI with the behavior so it can execute some of the actions normally you would personally execute, but much faster and maybe even more accurate in certain cases. So yeah, I think this kind of collaboration between human and the machine will just grow over the years.
Interesting. Um, do you have a warning for one of the things I'm interested by is that human beings seem to have no cool down button in regards to invention. I've been now a part of the AI sphere for 3 years. It is so fast, and there's no concern for it. And one of the questions I've never heard asking within a company is like, should we build this?
Mm-hmm.
If we can, we will almost. And it's like if AI falls into the category of something potentially harming, it feels to me that we are accelerating at an interesting pace at playing with fire while having forgotten that it also can burn us, so to say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think with the invention of recent technology, some people think engineering became so much easier. The writing code became easier. Some may even say software engineers or scientists made themselves obsolete, which I don't agree with. I think it's just we are experiencing a change of life, change of zeitgeist, or let's say the life is changing with the recent technological advancements. That's what's happening. Professions also change. So we are just, it's like beginning of, so year zero looked very different than year 1400. And we are also at an inflection point, and this will keep happening. I do see that this is like I think exponential growth cannot be easily stopped because it's just a bit of game theory, because parties are interested in growing in their own interest. So I don't think that there will be very easy agreement on, everybody, let's agree, let's slow down. I think it's not so realistic to human society. I think it's just going to keep happening. So exponential growth will continue, I think, in terms of technology. I just think that we need to be, similar to nuclear weapon thing. I think we need to be a bit careful. I think, there must be some kind of global agreement. Probably it's not going to be in every part of life or every part of, let's say, technology, but I think there must be some control. Yeah, and I think the jobs are changing, lives are changing. So in 50 years, life is going to be very, very different than now.
It reminds me of like there's some ideas that science emerged out of religion. and that religion made itself obsolete because the pursuit of truth became a scientific endeavor that killed religion. It feels like something similar is happening right now with human pursuits of truth. Anyway, I know you're running on a clock. I would like to move to the last part of the interview. It's a couple of questions. We call them Alexandrian questionnaire, and then we are having it for today.
All right.
What's your favorite question?
Oh, that's my favorite question. It's a little difficult to answer. What kind of needle AI agent did you create today? Okay, that would be like this kind of question.
This should earn you team member of the month. What kind of? I love that.
I'll be on the wall. Yeah.
Yeah.
What kind of question? I think. I think relating to the beginning of the conversation we had, why are you doing things in the way you do? Would be a nice question to ask to people you know and to yourself as well.
Simple but not easy. That's what comes to mind. What is your favorite word, Onur?
Favorite what?
Your favorite word.
Favorite word. I think my favorite word is wisdom, because I think wisdom is unlocking a lot of possibilities.
Your least favorite word.
Hate.
5 books that change your life.
5 what?
5 books that change your life.
5 books.
Yeah, books. 5 books that
5
change your
books.
life.
I think one of them is from Yuval Harari about humanity. I don't exactly remember the name of the book, but that was like very eye-opening for me. And then recently I am reading a book by Seneca. It's a Stoic philosopher from Roman Empire. I think they are very influential in kind of giving me new ideas about thinking about life.
A quote you're trying to strive by, like a quote you strive to live by.
A quote I strive. I think it's by Thomas Jefferson, which is, if you want to have something you've never had, you must be willing to do something you've never done before.
I like that. If you could resurrect 3 people from history to add to your board of advisors, who would you pick? And what would be the first question you ask?
I think one of them you maybe can guess already. I think I would resurrect Atatürk and sort of ask him how did he find courage and will to run the campaign he did, and how he feels about it. I'm thinking more. I think maybe I would even say like Adolf Hitler to see, because I think he's a very interesting person. I would like to understand better what goes through his mind, and I would like to understand his motivations, maybe a bit of insights into the way he thinks. So I would kind of ask questions about life to him. So a couple of them. Who else would I bring back? I think also Socrates from ancient Greece, and I would like to understand how life feels like in ancient Greece. How did it feel like to live there, and what was the feeling of life at this point of time, and what kind of made him the person he is today.
Fascinating choices. I've read the autobiographies of some of them, and I'm very fascinated also by people where you are forbidden to talk to them in a way. Like one of the goals of Alexandrian is to open up dialogue to also people who have been wrong about things, because I feel it's a treasure trove of wisdom to see how they arrived at the conclusion, what parts that it's to it. Very fascinating. On a graveyard, if there's sometimes a line about the tombstone, it's called an epitaph. What would be your one-liner that you would potentially engrave in here?
I like to say, I like to do things by like grace, wisdom, and power, and I think I would choose that. It's kind of my motto.
I like that. If we would equip this tombstone with an avatar of yours, and a pilgrim would find this resting place of yours, and you can play only one message for eternity that people who find this place of worship would hear, what would be your time capsule?
Um, can you repeat that? I'm not so
If
sure if I
you
understand.
would equip your tombstone with an avatar of yours that is trained on your thoughts and values and beliefs and body of work, what would be a message you would play if somebody would find this avatar of yours, like a time capsule, so to say, like a message to a future human who will find your grave?
I think I would pass a message: believe in yourself, and biggest project of you is yourself. I would say something like that.
Where can we find you, and how can we support you in your current venture?
You can find me online. I think that would be the easiest way.
Can
So,
you say like where we find you?
needle.app is what I'm building nowadays, so you can check it out. You can also find me online if you type my name, Onur Eken. You will also find me Discover. Also, physically, I live in Berlin, in Germany. So if you come over to Berlin, let me know, anybody, and we'll be happy to jump on a coffee call.
Thank you for making room for this interview. Also grateful for everybody who listened in for these long format interviews. I hope you learned as much as I have. Looking forward to see you in the next episode. Thank you, man.
Thank you, Daniel.